Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the space for entrepreneurs on a quest for unwavering certainty and purpose. I'm your host, Lauren, and each episode is a compass guiding you through authentic conversations, unraveling the mysteries of your human design chart, and offering tools from the remarkable guest. Join me as we embark on a journey to manifest greatness and create a life aligned with our deepest purpose. This is the space where misfits find their enlightenment. Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I have Stephanie. She is a coaching program design specialist. Welcome, Stephanie. So thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited to have this chat because I know a lot of coaches and I know the audience listening, they're coaches themselves or they're going to start their coaching program. So would you share or would you mind sharing a little bit about your journey, like where you started, how you became a coaching program specialist?
Okay, so a big part of where I started was as a kid, I felt like everybody got an instructional manual for human interaction except me. I'd see this group of girls talking, and I want to be part of that, except that I didn't really know much about the topic they were talking about, or I didn't know how to insert myself into the conversation in a way that would be welcome instead of pushy. So I really struggled to make friends as a kid. One of the major ways I started making friends was through my writing. I actually wrote my first full-length novel when I was 12 years old, and as a teenager, I finally started making connections with people through my writing. As an adult, that's actually how I got into coaching. Was mom became a life coach before me, and as the most prolific writer in the family, I went with her to all these training programs to learn how to write for business. You know, write websites, write with emails, write social media posts. So, and as I was in there, meeting all these coaches, I just fell in love with coaches and coaching, and seeing all these people who were trying to be their best selves, live their best lives, and help others to do the same. But I often found that these coaches didn't really know how to communicate with and connect with people. It kind of reminded me of my own childhood, struggling to connect with people, seeing all these coaches, trying to talk about these life-changing expertise areas of expertise they had, but they talked about it in the wrong way. Like, I'll help you shift your paradigms. Unless your clients have your kind of training, they don't know what exactly that means or why it helps them. You know why it's worth paying for because you know what it is and what it did for you, but your clients might not. So I saw all these coaches struggling to connect with the people they needed to connect with. And I realized that I could help them through my writing, through my ability to understand their perspective and the clients at the same time. So that's how I got into working with coaches. Started out with writing, and then gradually I realized that there was another way I could help them. With my extensive novel writing experience, I knew how to take a huge amount of information and break it down into this step-by-step flow that people could easily follow. And I was also a client of several coaches, which is part of why I want to. Another part of why I work with coaches because I've experienced the transformation in my own life. I want more people to have that transformation. So, with my experience in writing and taking a lot of information and breaking it down, and in experiencing coaching programs and seeing what worked and what didn't, now I help coaches to turn their expertise into a coaching program, even if it feels like a pile of spaghetti in their head, and they end up staring at the blank screen, going, "I know a lot of things. Why can't I figure out what to write next?" I help them to figure out what to write next, in what order, to make sure that the clients have all the information they need to get huge results.
Yeah, I love that. I was going to say my when I first started, my journey was a little bit similar. I was really bad at reading and writing, and then I decided I wanted to publish my first book. So that's amazing that you published your first novel, your full novel, you said at 11.
I didn't publish it. Honestly, it should never be published. It was a terrible novel, but I finished
Sure,
writing
was it?
a novel at age 12.
Yeah, 12. Yeah, so it's like 12. I'm thinking back when you said that, I was thinking 12. Gosh, what was I doing at 12? Probably trying to figure out how to still write and read and all that stuff. And I feel like my
Oh, so was I
mind,
really.
yeah, like my mind, very similar to you. Like I feel like it's one of the reasons why I named this podcast The Enlightened Misfits, because I feel like there's so many other people out there and we don't have the conversation of, trying to fit in, or like society tries, tries to get you to fit in and all that stuff. So I really love that you said that, because the listeners and everybody that, is going to listen to this they literally feel the same way, because they're like, oh, okay, so it's a space that's safe that I can talk about, whatever I want to talk about. And then, of course, you know, you have a heart, you have a bigger network to, talk to people, because I do feel like the coaching space is so noisy, and it's like all about money direction. So it's like, this many clients to this, whatever. But it's like, it seems like when you explain what you do, it seems like you do it like, of like, this is what you want, like your goals, right? And then this is how we can get there, and not really focus on, that. So I do love that. Now you said something about writing. What inspired you to like combine your writing skills with coaching? Like, so this is kind of like copywriting. I know for me, I didn't know that copywriting was so big when I started, having my own business. But is this similar to ghostwriting for coaches or
Oh yeah,
copywriting?
it's a lot like ghostwriting, except that usually instead of a full book, you just write smaller materials like emails, web pages, etc. Though I have written a book for a client before. I've been working with her for a while, and she asked me to write a book for her, and by then I knew her and her teaching so well, I was able to just write the book.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Now, if you would, going back to when you said the way that you kind of help your clients, and you can kind of compile like what you've learned to like helping them. I don't know if you're familiar with human design, but that's kind of like where I kind of went into human design. Like, do you notice that how do you kind of generalize like your clients and understanding like what works for them and what doesn't, because you've been through so many coaching programs?
They're luckily drawing from my own experience, stuff like being frustrated with some coaches who told me what to do, but not in detail how to do it, and just stuff like some coaches, they try and kind of cut off the client, and they assume that they know what the client's talking about. So they go this long, infuriating tangent, wasting the time the client's paid for on an assumption that they know what the client's talking about. In reality, they're telling the client things they already know, or they're talking about something that's irrelevant. So it's one thing that people is actually let the client finish their sentence first. And another issue that some coaches have is I've been on some coaching calls where there was a lot of dead air, the coach waiting for people to volunteer to talk about their situation or to ask questions, and nobody could think of a question they had to ask. And another coaching call or series of coaching calls where the person would take names as people went in and then ask each person if they had any questions. And if the person didn't have any questions, he'd ask them for an update on their week, and then he would usually find something to coach on. So they were pretty much guaranteed to actually get some value in the call, even if they couldn't think of a question off the top of their head. So the little things like that I've noticed coaches get right and wrong.
Yes. Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. Now with like your background in I was gonna say let me just say your impressive background in writing
Thank
with
you.
novel, like when reading novels or like fiction books. Um, what would you say if like somebody, like, just say if somebody's listening to this right now, what was the influence, or what would be the first step, besides, come reach out to you and work with you, but what would be the first step that could kind of influence somebody that they have all these ideas? Because I've noticed a lot of people I've been talking to, like my clients too, have all these ideas. They might be a coach or a mentor or a guide, whatever, but they don't know really where to go for the first step. Like, would you kind of share, maybe like maybe one or two steps that they could take to get, to get there?
You like to get their coaching program set up or get where exactly? Not
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, just like get there if they want to, yeah, if they have a coach, if they want to write a book, or if they want a coaching program, or like what is the first step? Because when you look at, I feel like when you look at the coaching space, it's like you have to get a certification, you have to do this, you have to do that. Like, what would you recommend going through your extensive background of writing, and coaching? What would you recommend the first step for somebody that's just starting out?
I'd say one of the big first steps would be figure out, what kind of life you want to have, and why you're creating what you're creating. Don't just write a book to write a book. Don't just create a course to create a course. Create a course to help your clients get a certain result and to create a lifestyle that you want. Like, let's say you want more free time, you might create a group coaching program. and make sure that it's something that you enjoy doing enough that you're actually likely to stick with it long enough to get the project done or to continue coaching on this over time. And if the main goal of what you're doing is to make, or I should say it's the main goal, if one of the main reasons is to make money off of what you're creating, do some market research first to make sure that what you're creating is something that people actually want.
Yes, that's it. Key market research. Yes, I say that to people all the time. I'm like, Google. There's tons of app market researches because you can start creating content. I personally just tell people whatever you love doing, just start creating it. Like just do it. You have all these ideas. They're sitting on paper to start doing something, right? So yes, market research is really important.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, what are some common challenges that you have ran across that you face with other entrepreneurs when they're creating their coaching program, and how do you kind of help them overcome these challenges?
I'd say one is not having time. So the one thing I do is I help people to take a look at the calendar and figure out where they can fit in the time to create it. Another is not really knowing what content to include. Yeah, I talked with one coach who said she felt like there was this pile of spaghetti sitting in her head, and she had all these ideas for offers. She wasn't sure how to sort them into actual offers. The other is imposter syndrome. Even if it's so easy when you really know something to forget how much it took for you to learn it and just start feeling like it's common knowledge, it's second nature. Oh, yeah, I can't really, it's not really that big a deal. I'm not that much of an expert. Everybody knows this, right? No, they don't. I think it's
Yeah.
important to remember that you don't have to be the biggest expert in the world or the biggest expert in a room full of experts. You need to be the biggest expert on this subject in a room full of average people. As long as you know how to accomplish something that the average person wants to accomplish but doesn't know how to, you can help them to accomplish that.
Yes, I love that. Yes,
Thank you.
the average person. Yes, because I've noticed the same thing for me too. Just like, I've been doing this like, 5, 6 years, but I always get in my own head thinking, oh, this person knows this, and I'll just say it. And they're like, oh, interesting. Tell me more. And I'm like, oh, like I forget that, oh, I've known this because it's just something that I love. So yeah, I like that. Um, so can you give us this is the favorite part I've been waiting for to ask you. Can you give us some actionable like tips that an entrepreneur can use to attract more clients or again maybe create like a more impactful coaching program?
Okay, so a couple of tips to attract more clients. Yeah, for one thing, when you're talking to your audience in general, let's say through a social media post, imagine that you're talking to just one person who's struggling with the issue that you help people solve. It helps to make it feel a lot more personal. It helps you to talk more directly to what they want. And when you're talking to them, you help them to really picture what life could be like with you. And the more you can put it in specific terms, the more they can picture themselves living that life and actually want it. One example that one of my mentors, I believe it was Brenda Norman's, taught me was, don't tell them you'll lose weight, tell them you'll fit in your favorite pair of jeans again.
Yeah, that's a good example. Yes.
Yeah, and another important one is don't talk about the root cause that they might not know they have. Like another example I heard of was a guy who had celiac disease. He would have debilitating stomach aches after having any kind of bread. But if you'd offered him a cure for celiac disease, he'd have turned you down. He would not have been interested. Why? Because he did not know he had celiac disease. But if you offered him a cure for the stomach aches that he knew he had, then he would have been very interested. So your clients might not always know what exactly is causing their difficulty. So instead of talking about the root cause they don't know they have, talk about the symptoms that are on their minds a lot and talk about the outcome that they lie in bed dreaming about.
Yeah, so symptoms and outcome, they are really, really
Yeah.
good tips. Yes, I love, love, love that. So when you said something about imposter syndrome, so obviously I don't know, I know that this is very common for all of us. So how do you kind of help your coaches beat or your clients that you work with? How do you help them beat this imposter syndrome and sell with confidence?
I've got a few exercises I can take people through, and for those in the audience, I encourage you to get out a pen and paper and be ready to write this down because I'm actually going to share one for you right away. So
Yay!
one of them is take a list of the areas of expertise that you have, all the topics that you believe you know enough about to possibly teach on. Then pick one of those topics, and imagine if your client had to walk step by step through the process of going from where they are to where they want to be. List out those steps. Now take one of those steps and break it down. Let's say, for example, you're a relationship coach. One of the steps could be uh, figuring out what kind of person you want to date. Another could be finding where that person hangs out. Another could be, making a good first impression on that person. So let's pick making a good first impression on that person. Now break that down into steps. What kind of mindset do you have to have going into this? What are some good ways to break the ice? Especially in the case of a man approaching a woman, how do you approach her without seeming threatening, especially if it's in a public space too?
Right.
So then, of course, each of those steps is going to have a bunch of steps, like the mindset. Okay, so what kind of mindset? What steps does a person have to take to cultivate this mindset? How do you maintain this mindset when you hit a rough patch? What should this mindset look like? So the more as you break this down, you really start to, especially if you've got it on paper, so you can see all this information written down. You start to realize, wow, I actually have really detailed, in-depth knowledge about this. And then ask yourself, does the average person know this? Judging by their behavior, does the average person know all this stuff? Or is this something that they could really use and that I know a lot more about than they do and that I can help them to learn and implement?
Yes. Thank you for those tips. They are very good tips. So if any of the listeners listening, make sure when if you're listening to this make sure you pause and have a pen and paper to do this exercise because this is very, very valuable.
It's also really useful for your marketing too, because then you're getting all these tips written out, so that will give you a huge amount of content marketing material that you can share with your ideal clients.
Yes. Yes. You hear that too? It's for your marketing too. Okay. So I just have a couple more questions before we kind of wrap up. And then if you have any offers that you are running or programs that you are running, we would love to hear about them. And then, of course, how we can connect with you. Um, so what or do you have any strategies that develop maybe a positive or resilient mindset to kind of help along with all of this?
One that I do is every day at the end of the day, I keep a journal and write down things I'm proud of that I did, things that I accomplished, things that I helped people with. And I put the focus not so much on results, but on effort, because you can't always control your results, because sometimes those results depend on other people making decisions. Like with sales, your results in their area depend on people choosing to buy, but you can always control your effort.
Yes. Yes. Now, and that kind of probably ties into like that time management when you talked about earlier. Do you have any like top tips on managing time more effectively when you're running your coaching business?
The system I use, and I know different people will need different systems. But the system I use is I have this digital calendar. I use Outlook, and every task gets a time slot based on how long I think that task is going to be. Like 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, answer emails. 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, make a post on social media, and do networking, reach out to new potential clients. And then 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, maybe I create a new opt-in gift. And so every task has its time slot, and that way I know how much of my day is booked, so I don't overbook, and I know when if a task comes up, I can see at a glance where it can fit in. And of course, I also color code my stuff. For example, the appointment slot for this interview was purple because it's something that I can't just shuffle around without consulting somebody else. I have to actually be there on at a very specific time. Um, the default task is blue. It has a time slot, but if I get to it 10 minutes late, it's not a tragedy. I'm not going to leave somebody waiting on Zoom. And stuff that could be useful but isn't necessarily urgent is in green. So if a more high priority task comes up, the green ones are the first to get moved to a later date. And it's also helpful to do your highest demand tasks, like the ones that are the most important and urgent, the ones that require the most of your energy. Do those first or during your highest energy periods when you're most likely to perform best on them. And
Yeah.
when I forget which celebrity it was, might have been Reese Witherspoon. I'm not sure, but I like one tip that this person shared. Instead of thinking about trying to keep all the balls in the air when you're juggling all your tasks, think about which balls are made of glass and which ones are made of plastic. So the glass balls, if you drop those, something bad happens. The plastic ones, if you don't if you drop them, if they don't get done today, there are no real consequences. If I don't create my new opt-in gift today, nothing really bad is going to happen. So, get your glass balls taken care of first. And that way, if anything comes up and you can't keep on juggling all the balls you've got in the air, it doesn't really matter that much if the remaining ones hit the floor.
Yes, I really love that example that you gave because I feel like even for me too, when I have all of the things, all the things to do, like, family, just everything, I have it all on my schedule and I color code too. Now, I don't know if it's a psychological thing, but like I always color. My favorite thing to do is like color code stuff. I don't know if you do that too, but I will always like, and it's funny that you said this podcast is purple because everything on my schedule, all of my schedules, it's always purple. So it's from purple for me too. But
Oh, cool.
I, and it's just, and all my content is purple. And so it's like purple or pink. Pink is like pink or clients. So it's like those two colors I really, really like. And I feel like that it gets me motivated. Not that I know I have to be here, right? We have to be on, we have to be here to like record because obviously I have to show up for you guys. So I do like that you said that. Now, yellow and like the different colors, and I guess I don't really even know if this is psychological, like I said, but it's like, oh, that can get done tomorrow or that can get done. But sometimes I often feel like, depending on what my energy type is or energy is that day, I kind of get into, oh, I didn't do that. And it kind of gets into like that shame, like, oh, those type. How do you kind of navigate around that? Do you simply just say like that it's plastic, it's going to bounce up, it'll come back tomorrow? Is that kind of what you're kind of talking about here? Or,
Yeah, if I can't get something done today, I just schedule it for another day, and that way I know that it's still in the schedule, it's still going to get done. And sometimes I kind of mentally review, what led to me not being able to do this. And often it's just, higher priority tasks came up, and it's
yeah,
okay to prioritize higher priority tasks.
yeah,
And I also remind myself that just sometimes I'm just not operating on a full tank, and I have to be merciful to myself on the days when I just can't do things as fast as I'd wanted because I'm just tired.
yeah. Yes, yeah. Now I was going to say, do you know anything about human design? I'm curious about your human design.
A little bit about it, but not in enough depth to really speak on it admittedly.
Okay. What is your energy type?
Shoot, I'm not sure.
No, it's okay. We can always do it after this call. I can always do it for you. I'm just curious because I'm curious if you're a projector like me. Because projectors and manifestors, they don't operate like the rest of the world. It's like you need rest days. The other, builders of society is like a generator, constantly like going, 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 can do like a million things and like every single day. Like it's every single day. So I was just curious. That's all. So, lastly, what advice would you give to somebody who is just starting in their journey in their coaching, creation, or selling?
Let's see. I'd say for one thing, have faith in your expertise. Like if you've gotten good results for yourself and others, have faith in that you know how to get these results, and also pay attention to what are people asking you for advice about? What do people already see you as an expert in? Because if people are already coming to you for advice, and that shows you that you already have an audience of people who perceive you as an expert in this. And rather you don't. As the one, I forget which person was posting it, but I did love one posted recently. Saw everything works, ads work, free posting free content works, podcasting works. This whole list of things that work. It all works. It's just that different things work better for different people. So if somebody tells you my thing is the only thing that works, don't listen to them. They're lying to you. Find somebody else to mentor you. What you need to do is figure out what works for you. What do you like doing enough that you're actually going to consistently implement it? What fits with your style and personality and target audience enough that you're actually going to consistently implement it enough to get results. And a lot of things, for most people, it doesn't really start getting results right away. You need that to take some time to build that trust and momentum and that audience. So when you give something a try, give it, I'd say, 90 or so days. Give it a good few months to test it out. And be willing to pivot if it isn't working out, but do give it enough time to actually see the results and to give yourself time to refine that process before you just throw it out entirely.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that. Well,
Welcome.
thank you for joining us on today's episode with Stephanie on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with somebody that you feel that will gain knowledge from listening. All of her links and contact information will be in the description box. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you resonate with this conversation and found it insightful, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Your feedback fuels our mission. Remember, your journey to unwavering certainty and purpose is ongoing. Stay connected with us on social media and let's continue this conversation. Let's manifest greatness in our lives. Until next time, this is Lauren from the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Stay enlightened, stay inspired, and keep manifesting your extraordinary path.